And we're back with Mensa. And remember the whole thing about load management, Andrew Claudia said earlier? I lied.
This is the remix.
GMAC, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be a guest on the Knicks Film School podcast, specifically Casual Friday. This is one of my favorite shows. Thanks for having me, guys.
Listen, you are welcome here anytime because you are GMAC. You're GMAC.
Thanks.
You can literally show up anytime. But we're glad you're here because you are going to help us determine. And in fact, you're going to help us make lemonade out of some lemons, and those lemons being hive culture. Because hive culture stinks and it's awful, it's terrible, and it really shouldn't have any place in sports. But guess what? It ain't going nowhere, so we're going to try and have some fun out of it. So we, in the spirit of March Madness, are presenting the first ever KFS Hive Madness tournament. So we took your hives and we ranked them and we gave them seeds, and we're going to figure out today who has the worst hive or best hive. What is it? The best hive or the worst hive? Because I mean, they're not good.
Most insufferable.
Thank you, Mensa. The most insufferable hive of them all.
Yes. Oh, you know what would have been a really, really good hive? A niche hive? Sam Presti hive.
Ooh. So I think this is where, not to produce your show, but this is where we should just explain for those who aren't on Twitter what a hive is and what in particular we're clarifying or classifying, I should say, as a hive in this sense.
Do people off Twitter not know what hives are?
Probably, actually.
Okay, go ahead, Mensa.
So hive is a word that has been like co-opted, like Jordan Hive, Steph Hive. So the original hive is the Beehive or Beyonce's fans. And what they would do is they would literally swarm like bees out of a beehive whenever any sort of like criticism came Beyonce's way that they had deemed unfair. So in sports, we have now taken that, and now there's like, Kobe. Before it was the Kobe Hive, it was the Kobe cult, if we're being honest. Same thing. So if you belong to a hive, you vociferously defend said person who I guess is the first name of your hive.
Nailed it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and honestly, the first sports hive was the Kobe Hive, because Beehive, Kobe Hive, but then it went to it just spiraled. So now everyone has a hive. So,
all right. So before that hive comes and attacks us, it's the Bay Hive, as in Beyonce hive.
Yes. The Beehive is for Beyonce.
Yes.
So let's be clear. There's the Kobe Hive and there's the Beehive. The Beehive is for Beyonce. So, all right. So we have here for those who are listening on podcasts, we have up a bracket of 12 players, the hives for 12 NBA players, past and present. And I will read off the seeds to you. So I'll start from the bottom. I'll do it this way. So since it's 12 teams, the top 4 seeds get a bye to the next round. And we believe that these top 4 seeds are fitting top 4 seeds because these are easily the most insufferable. Because after them, there's a space. And then there's all the others. So the 4 seed is the Steph Curry Hive, hashtag Steph Better. The 3 seed is the Jordan Hive, hashtag Jordan Never Lost. The 2 seed is the LeBron Hive, hashtag LeBron's the GOAT. And the 1 seed with a bullet is the Kobe Hive because he's Kobe. So those are the top 4 seeds. Now, fighting for the right to play those top 4 seeds are our playing round members. So in the 8-9 matchup to play the Kobe Hive is Cam Reddish versus RJ Barrett.
Can we clarify something, Sean? Can we just clarify one thing? So these 4 play-in matchups, they're going to be 8-9, 5-12, 11-6, 7-10. They're not; those aren't the seeds. Like both Cam and RJ are 8 seeds. But the way we set it up, it looks like it's technically 5. We're not trying to disrespect anybody saying that one is a higher seed than the other. They are both 8, okay? And they're both going to battle it out, or we're going to decide who battles it out for the right to be the 8th seed.
Yes. So, and to take a peek behind the curtain, I could not find a website that will allow me to do 2 8 seeds. So, So in the 8 seed playing game is RJ versus Cam.
There you go.
Hive.
They're Hives.
Yes. They're
Hives. Let's be clear. In the 5 seed play-in is the Russ Hive versus the Harden Hive. In the 6 seed play-in, it is the Jokic Hive versus the Embiid Hive.
Ooh, buddy.
And in the 2 seed, and the right to play, LeBron is a 2 seed, and the 7 seed play-in, it is the Melo Hive versus the Frank Hive. Shout out Frank Ntilikina.
Shout out Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah. Sure. See, we've already started becoming annoying. Okay. So before we begin, I do want to read some honorable mentions for players. There are some players that we thought that they did not make the field. They were on the bubble, didn't make it. And they're all Knicks players because we decided to say, we said we should keep it only to like 4 Knicks Hives. So the Hives that didn't make it were the IQ Hive, the Damian Dotson Hive, shout out to Macri, the Kadeem Allen Hive, Free Dot, the Kadeem Allen Hive. I didn't even know that mother had a hive, but whatever. The Pablo Prigioni Hive. I think that was Mensah's suggestion.
Priggy Smalls.
The Julius Randle Hive. I was going to shout him out, but I'm not going to do that. The Michael Beasley Hive. And last but not least, and this is you have been in the trenches if you remember these days, the Alonzo Trier Hive. I actually tried to make this. I actually tried to fight to get Trier in, but the committee said no because there was a time when people were really angry that Alonzo Trier wasn't getting minutes on his team. In fact, there was someone on the internet, and I'm sure not going to say his name because he doesn't deserve the clout, that said that Alonzo Trier is better than RJ Barrett. Do you know what team Alonzo Trier plays for in the NBA? That's right. He doesn't play for one. All right. With
that poor man's mom came on this show. My God.
Oh, that's right. Again. Okay. So
friend of the pod, Mrs. Trier.
Okay. Let me be clear before this gets clipped. Let me be clear. And you missed it when I said this earlier, GMAC. The discussion around these players is not about the player. It is about the people who ridiculously, hyperbolically, I don't know if that's a word, support them unconditionally and ignore their faults and only glorify their positives. So it's not about Alonzo Trier. It's just the fact that people thought that, like, all right, this guy who was undrafted or whatever is better than, like, come on, what are we doing, right? But when you hive, you hive. Okay, so
I have one honorable mention to add.
Yes,
Landry Fields.
He had a hive.
I remember 2010. I had everybody telling me that he should be untouchable in a Carmelo Anthony trade because they'll be better off with keeping Landry Fields long term because he has the potential and the higher ceiling to be better than Carmelo Anthony. And it's why the day that the Donovan Mitchell trade didn't happen, even though I understood why it didn't happen and somewhat agree for it not happening, there was somebody, I forget who it is, but was doing the Lord's work, retweeting people from 2010 that were saying the exact same thing about Landry Fields that people are saying about Quentin Grimes. I don't think it's an equal thing because I understood back then why people didn't want to trade for Melo, even though he was about to be a free agent. I also understand not trying to go all in for Donovan Mitchell when you didn't know all the assets were for this current team. Having said that, I remember the Tony Douglas Hive. I remember the Wilson Chandler Hive. And look, we didn't want to go down this road because, again, friend of the pod, but there's a Jeremy Lin Hive out there that believes the Knicks should have traded Melo instead of letting those 3 weeks of an undrafted free agent, work their course. You know, so.
I remember. I know it's funny as you started talking about the Landry Fields days. I actually remember the Linsanity Hive, and I remember there was someone that was saying like, was a free agent. It was like, well, they were talking about like what roster change were going to be made. It's like, well, we can't get rid of Linsanity, and I'm like, we could. I'd like to keep him, but listen,
if you are a retired
and we did.
If you are a retired sports writer in Florida and you still have ill will feelings toward Carmelo Anthony and how Linsanity went, listen, Florida man, I hope you are enjoying retirement. If you know, Let's do the bracket.
All right, let's do the bracket. All right, first, let's start with the 8 seed playing game, the RJ Hive versus the Cam Hive. Let's just start with a bang.
Go do it.
Can I get this one?
Go ahead, Matt. So you have to start with this.
Okay. So I will say this about the RJ Hive, as I don't think I'm a member of the RJ Hive, to be honest. At least that is still a Knicks Hive. That's the first thing I will say. The second thing I will say is that the Cam Hive, the Cam Hive is actually like the anti-Tibbs Hive with mustaches on, because they've only used Cam Reddish as a means to an end to say, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's doing, or, oh, this guy in the front office, Leon Rose, we should fire him. It's all politics at the Garden. And it's like, it has nothing to actually do with Cam Reddish, which is to me a lot nastier, because it's like, why use this guy in his career to further your dirty agendas? At least with RJ Barrett, like the RJ Hive, and there are people in the RJ Hive who are very much anti-Tibbs, because, I mean, if you're a Knicks fan, like in any Knicks Hive, there are people who are anti-Tibbs, so that's not even debatable. But at least like with the RJ Hive, there are people who, look, don't get me wrong, there are people making up statistics out here, right? But at the same time, I just don't think it's as nasty. And I think like people who root for RJ Barrett also root for the New York Knicks. Whereas people who like watched the Cam Reddish leave the Knicks and was like, oh yeah, 50-point Cam game coming, and it didn't happen. So yeah, no, if I had to go with any Hive being like more insufferable, it's the Cam Hive, because they're currently like the undead and they're still going. They're like zombies, and I hate zombie movies.
My go?
If you want.
So hold on. I was looking through some research for this bracket, and I came across this website. The actor who played Shang-Chi, Simu Liu. Well, there's another website that has his first name, Simu.com. It's a basketball analytics website. Simu stands for Stat I Made Up. And so I came up with a stat from the site, defense under mass burden. It's called dumb. And RJ's dumb is apparently the best on the Knicks this season. And I got to say, if it wasn't for the RJ Hive, I wouldn't know about the Simu.com and the ability to make up stats. And this is going to get me in trouble. I know it is, but I don't care.
Trouble is relative.
I don't care.
To play devil's advocate, what are stats except things that are made up?
All stats are made
all
up.
All stats are made up. You are correct. What I will say is that I'm gonna give
Think for yourself, Andrew.
Well, no, I'm gonna give Menza credit here, because what you've done with your membership in the RJ Hive has fully put into context that you're not ignoring the fact that he's playing poorly. You're not creating a different reality than the one we're in. You're just saying like he's 22. He's not put in the best position to succeed. Personally, it may be sacrificing his best position to succeed so that way the team can succeed otherwise. But that like there's still room to get better. There's still a path. There's still precedent for people who struggled with their efficiency. And that's a reality I can at least respect, even if I don't necessarily align with it. Having said that, there is no reality with the other Hive. So I'm going to go with the RJ Hive. With the RJ Hive is not as insufferable. So I'll say the Cam Hive moves on.
Look, this is a clean sweep.
Okay.
Like the fact that people were so incensed that when he got traded that they said they were now like the same people who complain about Knicks West Coast road trips because they have to stay up so late are now saying, I'm going to start watching Blazers games.
Yeah.
And which is funny because half of them don't have League Pass. And they stayed up, and when he scored 11, 2, and 2, you would have thought that Cam was holding up a piece of paper with 100 written on it. And again, and I'm going to keep saying this is not about the player. It is about those who blindly support in the face of evidence to the contrary, who choose to ignore it, who basically pull Eddie Murphy from Beverly Hills Cop and go, la, 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 la. So Cam Hive moves on. I think that was easy. So
yes,
congratulations. So Cam will move on with a score of, what we'll do? We'll give RJ.
Cam Hive moves on. Yeah.
I was gonna
Cam Hive moves on.
I was gonna make a joke. I'll say that.
What is it?
No, I was gonna give, because for this bracket you can put a score. So I was gonna put Cam 1, RJ minus 27, but I figured I will just there we go. Cam Hive moves on. All right, moving on to the 5 seed matchup. We have the Russ Hive versus the Harden Hive. And this time we will let GMAC go first.
Harden Hive has to be the pick here, that they're the most insufferable.
I think from the look that Mensa just made, I think we have a split.
Oh, we are going to have a split. I personally, so this may also be the Fred Katz effect, in that I have grown to respect Russ a little bit, to the point where I appreciate him a little bit more than I used to when I was a reckless tweeter in 2017, calling his stats empty, predicting a first round exit, which happened. And then Fred has talked to me a lot about Russ's brilliance and how well he knows the game. He's humanized him a little bit more for me. Whereas James Harden, I just continually gets ignored how much of a loser he is in the postseason. I'm sorry, just at a certain point, I had people telling me he was ahead of Giannis on the all-time list. And I just, like, at a certain point, like, winning something in the postseason that you were responsible for has to matter. All-time top 75, yes. Top 50, most likely. Top 40, let me look at it. At a certain point, we have to actually look at the accolades, and his Hive just does not look at the accolades without adding in the accomplishments that have to go on to the postseason as well. So I will go Harden Hive. I assume there's going to be some pushback here.
Yeah. So Mensa had a face when GMAC said, Harden, and he didn't think it was particularly close. So Mensa, what say you?
I mean, if you want to talk about losers, and I hate to start like that, and I really hate to start like that, but let's talk about some losers.
We are gonna get canceled. We're not gonna get canceled, but they're gonna send for us. This show's gonna do numbers.
Russell Westbrook, without Kevin Durant, 2017. Triple-double. Oh, my goodness. This guy is he's doing things that Oscar Robertson has only done. And goes home first round in the playoffs with Paul George and Carmelo Anthony as his teammates against a rookie, Donovan Mitchell. And he was talking so much about how much he doesn't like Ricky Rubio and all of these things, and still went home in the first round of the playoffs. Do we remember the most iconic picture of Damian Lillard's career?
Yeah.
Because that was the season after that. And that was also a first round exit. then he gets traded to the Houston Rockets, if I'm not mistaken. He ends up in Houston. That's the only time that he has won a playoff series without Kevin Durant, and he did it with James Harden, and they almost lost to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the Oklahoma City Thunder in a 4-5 match. Without
in a YMCA.
There you go.
Lake Buena Vista, Florida.
And it was a very close game. Let's not forget that. That game went down to the wire. Russell Westbrook does not win in the first round of the playoffs. At least James Harden has done that. Every time he gets to the first round of the playoffs, he wins a playoff series. You cannot say the same thing about Russell Westbrook without an MVP teammate, and I think that is very important. But the Russ Hive swears up and down that Russell Westbrook is like sometimes I have the conversation with people in the Russ Hive, and I'm like, you guys are like Kobe Hive retreats.
Yeah.
Like after Kobe, it was like, who else has heart? And then it was Russ. And the way people in that Hive hype this man up and ignore just the plain truth that he is not that guy. He's never been that guy. I remember when Russ, James, and Kevin Durant were all on the same team, I said it very plainly. I said, Kevin Durant will never win a championship as long as he's a teammate to Russell Westbrook. Left Russell Westbrook. He obviously teamed up with some really good guys, and anybody could have won with that team. But Russell hasn't done anything. He has not done enough, in my opinion, outside of the regular season. And I'm a guy who believes the regular season matters. But, I mean, come on, bro. Like, he was getting those triple doubles because Cantor and Adams were boxing out for him. To me, he's the Kirk Cousins of the NBA.
That was an organizational decision to get him the MVP. They had committed to like, all right, we lost Durant, so Russell Westbrook's going to average a triple double, set the record, and win the MVP.
It was very pathetic as far as I'm concerned. I think he's the Kirk Cousins of the NBA, and if I say that, I might get shot if I go outside. So I'm going to say the Russ Hive is easily more insufferable than the Harden Hive, because to me, Harden Hive is just whatever team he plays for. They're just going to cape for their guy, but James Harden doesn't really have a hive like that. Russ, oh yeah, people defend him to this day. There are people who embarrass themselves on national media. We had a national media member come on this podcast last year and say that the Knicks should trade for this guy because of all the things. And shout out to Channing Frye, ex-Knick, OCAC. But I don't agree with that. At all.
Fellow Blue Wire podcast member.
Right, exactly.
Friend of the pod. I very much disagreed with him. We didn't push back, unfortunately, but
all the things. But that is the extent of the delusion that comes with the name Russell Westbrook. So to me, it's it's not close, but it's not close in favor of Russ Hive being more insufferable.
I actually think this isn't close.
Oh, okay.
I think it's Russell Westbrook.
Okay.
And here's why. I have some notes. And again, this is not about the player. Although I will reference things the player has done that the Hive has ignored. So XJ is actually not part of this episode because XJ is relatively new to Twitter. So he's like, I didn't really feel that much. I know that much about Hive culture. So before the first half of the show, I was explaining to him what the Hive, every Hive has a tagline about their guy. For Russ, it's never his fault. It is every time something goes wrong, it's never his fault. Ever, ever, ever. And I've gotten to so many discussions on social audio with these Russ Hive people. And I'm like, but this happened. Like, for example, it's funny because the conversation about we can't give Jokic the MVP and he may not even make the finals, when people were more than happy to give Russ the MVP, knowing full well he wouldn't even sniff the conference finals. But it wasn't his fault. It's because Kevin left. Okay, cool. I will always remember the 2017 season when, Russ was literally Russ would drive to the basket, go up for the layup, have the ball literally over the rim and dump it off to Taj Gibson for the assist. And I was told that he was the MVP. And I will never forget me sitting it was April 2017, and I'm sitting in a Pret a Manger on Oxford Street in London, arguing furiously in a group chat about why I had Kawhi as the MVP. And all I was told was triple doubles. He has no team. He has no teammates. Whatever. Look at his team. Oh, you mean Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis, who became all-stars the minute he left.
Talk about it, Sean.
Those two guys. Okay. But you know what it is? You know what it is? Kobe gave him the stamp of approval. Because I believe Kobe had said, like, the guy that I have the most trouble guarding is Russ. And the Russ fans took it and they ran with it. And every time, like, Russ is on a Supermax contract. And he's been on 5 teams in that on that contract, and yet it's just a matter to the Russ stands, to the Russ Hives, a matter of circumstance. To me, this is Russ with a bullet. It's not close. Now, I think I'll say this: Harden Hive should be just called Bag Twitter. That's what Harden Hive is.
Yes,
because it's tween hezzy tween step back like that's what that is.
I think the pushback. And look, like Russ wins, but that I think was going to be the thing I pointed to is the discourse when he was going up against Giannis for the MVP.
Yeah.
And like you said, bag Twitter. Now that I associate that with like Kyrie and his Hive too, where it's like Kyrie's the most gifted ball handler ever, which I got to be honest, don't necessarily disagree with that. Don't know how much that matters in this conversation.
Kyrie could have been in this
but Sean, absolutely. that welcomes a very different kind of Hive that might
we want to keep it basketball.
Yeah, we want to keep it basketball here, my friend.
Yes, that is true. That is
well
true.
Done, Mensa. All right, so Russ moves on.
All right, Russ moves on. Next up, in the 6 seed playing game, Embiid and Jokic. I guess since we're going in order, I'll start this time. I actually think this is tough. I feel it's because both sides are just like, for me, when it comes to, there's the eye test Hive, and then there's the counting stats Hive, and then there's the analytics advanced stats Hive. And to me, all those 3 things, all like eye tests, advanced stats, and counting stats, they all have one thing in common. It's all data. It's all information. And I don't like it when people overlook a set of numbers, a set of data to amplify the other. And I think in this matchup, you literally have one set of, like, the Jokic Hive is just saying, look at these advanced numbers. It's clear. And the Embiid Hive is like, look at this. Look at these counting stats. It's here. It's like Embiid's, Jokic's, his ward is warping. And actually, you know what? I actually know who I'm going to pick. I know who I'm going to pick, as I've literally been thinking to sound things out. Because, like, the Embiid Hive will say things like, well, if this were 20 years ago, he'd be the MVP, and he's the leading scorer. He'd be the MVP, and he busts Jokic's ass one-on-ones. He should be MVP. And that's kind of annoying. The Jokic Hive will try to tell you that Jokic is a good defender because look at his defensive box plus minus. And it's like, and shout out to Zach Lowe, friend of the pod, who was like, I watch basketball. He's not a good defender. I don't care. So when you try to insult my intelligence, to me, your Hive is more insufferable. So I'm voting Jokic Hive.
I guess I'll
go ahead, Mensa.
I kind of have to go the other way, just because very recently Embiid Hive has gotten problematic. It's really tough to. Well, it got national attention how problematic Embiid Hive is because Kendrick Perkins said it. A lot of people believed it. And I don't want to touch too much on it, but when we start to like take real life issues and apply them to things in basketball that aren't real, like at the end of the day, we have to remember that basketball is a game, right? And I'm not saying that like politics don't have a place in sports, because I would never say anything like that. That's kind of how we as a people, as Black people, have, gotten things done through our athletes. Like, they've done a really good job, but we have to remain responsible with that. And I think the Embiid discussion has gotten to a place. Well, people have not, it hasn't gotten to a place. Let me be honest. Like, there are people who are still keeping it about basketball, but because the Embiid Hive has now gotten to a place where that's part of the argument and that's part of the discussion, I think that's more insufferable. So, and I hope I'm doing a good job, like, dancing around it without, like, jumping straight on it.
Oh, Mensa, you're taking the argument I was going to make. Like, we're about to agree on this. Don't worry.
Yeah. I just can't. I don't know, man. Like, that to me is it's a little much. And I think if you have to go to those lengths to defend your guy, then you're more insufferable.
Yeah, I am. Not only do I agree that I'll just like flatly say it, the fact that it became, if you don't think Joel Embiid is the MVP, you're racist. That's like a step too far for me in the discourse. And you add in the fact that as of right now, Joel Embiid is the favorite to win the MVP. So not as though only the Hive insufferable, but it's working. Yeah, they're the most, they advance. They're the most insufferable Hive here. I fully agree with Sean that, like, the Jokic Hive and the math that's involved.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Of it all. It's like, all right, I get it. I also like, so do I have to watch the game? Do I just go by what the dunks and threes said? I love dunks and threes, by the way. So I should like put it down too much. However, like, at a certain point, 98th percentile and up is just the top 2%. It doesn't matter whose number is higher. You're just in the 98th percentile, So.
Okay. No, I kind of like tuned out from that whole discussion, but I can't really argue with either. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Let's try like semi rapid fire through these. All right. 7 seed Melo Hive versus Frank Hive. And for those who are listening and not watching, over Andrew Claudio's right shoulder is a jersey of Carmelo Anthony, 3 to the dome. It's only fitting we'll let you go first. Let's just get this out the way.
Frank Hive, y'all stand a man that is not getting minutes on a team that needs defense. Yeah, no, like, Frank Hive is, I was told he's Mike Conley. I was told he's Drew Holiday. I was told every single thing. I get it. I watched the games. I saw his impact. He's a rotation player in the NBA. The Frank Stan squad. Okay, the Frank Hive has to move on here, because my intelligence was insulted a lot over the years when I was like, I don't really see it, but I listen. That's why the Hive exists. I appreciate it. People should believe in things. Believe in yourself the way you believe in Frank Ntilikina. That's all I'm gonna say. Frank Hive moves on for me.
Mensa,
I gotta go with listen. The Melo Hive in their peak were like, no, like, I'm not gonna, like, I remember the Melo Hive, like, he's better than LeBron, which is crazy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. So the delusion with the Melo Hive was people in the Melo Hive believed like he was better than, like, the game's elite, or in the same, like, I love Melo. He's not Kobe. He wasn't Chris Paul. Not Kevin Garnett, not LeBron James. And the Melo Hive was like, he's right there with him. and like, that's tough. But at the same time, like, taking an all-star, superstar type guy and saying that, and this is where I'm starting to like, okay, there are levels to this. Like, if you want to say this guy's a superstar, cool. But I'm talking about like an MVP candidate type player, right? So like, Melo, you can say he's an all-star. You could say he was a superstar. He wasn't an MVP, right? So, and honestly, there are people who don't agree with me, which is hilarious. But what I would say is that is a little more reasonable than taking a guy who was literally afraid to dribble the ball past the half-court line and saying he's a starting point guard. That's nuts. So yeah, I got to say Frank Hive advances for me just because the delusion was a little bit stronger with those people.
Sean, you want to try and convince one of us?
He was going to say,
because I think you're a member of the Frank Hive, so you were expecting the Mellow Hive to get ousted here.
Okay, so I'm a member of the Frank Hive, but I say that tongue in cheek, and what I mean by that is the problem with the Frank Hive gets a bad rap because the majority of the people who supported Frank, the main point that we all made was they never prioritized the kid because people were saying he stinks. It's like you drafted this kid. Well, they drafted him, and then the guy who drafted him got fired a week later, which is problematic. But it was, let's bring in Emmanuel Mudiay. Let's bring in Ramon Sessions. Let's bring in Jarrett Jack. Let's bring in, there's a fourth guy I'm forgetting, Alfred Payton. And it was like, yo, you're trying to win games with a team that can't win. Just throw the kid out there and see what's up. And somehow that got twisted into, we think listen, I said this in 2018. I'm like, yo, he needs to be Danny Green. That's what he needs to do. He needs to shoot threes and play some D. That's what you need to do. That's it. Right. I gave up on, and then when Tim showed up, now we'll see. I'll give you guys some bail here. Because when Tim showed up, a lot of people to Frank Hive were like, all right, he's going to get his shot now because he's a defensive guy. And when he didn't get off the bench, it was like, all right, this is over. Here's my problem with the Melo Hive. My problem with the Melo Hive is very simple to the problem is with the Russ Hive. I don't know about y'all. I grew up watching Knicks in the 90s when it was okay to when you made the playoffs by rolling out of bed. So I never understood why a guy who won one playoff series in 6 years, people are saying his numbers should be retired, that he's on the level of these guys who decided to he couldn't win because of the team around him. Look at the team around him. Then why was it that he decided that he was going to sign a max deal? No, a slightly under max deal. Because remember, he gave back $5 million to help them build a team. Why he decided to re-sign with a 37-win team with no draft picks and no young players to speak of. But then you tell me that they couldn't build around him. I knew they couldn't build around him.
Wait, Sean, you didn't like Aaron Aflalo and Robin Lopez? You didn't like that? You didn't like it at all? That wasn't for you?
So, Listen, Melo's not moving on. I see where you're coming from Frank, but it's not that Melo is the way they deify this guy. And again, I come from an era where the players that we liked, made the playoffs, won playoff games, got to conference finals, got to NBA finals, but we want this man's jersey retired for one playoff victory in 6 years. And they tell you they couldn't build a team around him. How come he didn't see that in 2014? Oh, I know why. Because there was 124 million reasons why.
Yes, he decided to take a market value contract that he was deserved to take, and then every move after that was gone. Yeah, because you like Derrick Rose, you like that contract. You like Joakim Noah, 4 years, $72 million. Big fan of Courtney Lee, 4 years, $55 million.
How couldn't you love it?
In life,
you like
Lance Thomas, 4 years, $24 million.
In life,
you like who's the guy that became a doctor? The white kid. Ron Baker, yeah.
Ron Baker.
You like him and his no trade clause? Yeah.
In life.
I actually got a headache when Ron Baker signed that contract.
Good. He's a doctor now. He can treat it.
In life, taking the money is not always the best option. So I don't want to hear, well, he took the money. Yes, you took the money. And guess what you took? With a lot of money comes a lot of responsibility. Moving on.
Oh, God.
All right, we are to the Elite Eight. Let's see if we can somewhat.
No, we're good. This. We're good.
Okay.
These first couple will be quick.
Okay. I think. In the Elite Eight, Kobe Hive versus Cam Hive. I don't think this is close.
Kobe.
I'm gonna leave this one to Andrew about a certain. Well, we can get to that a little later.
We will say our piece about Kobe later. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's not close. It's not.
Yeah,
close.
This is Kobe.
All right. Kobe wins 8-0. Shout out to the B. Okay, now it gets a little interesting in the 4-5 matchup. Russ Hive versus Steph Hive. Who would like to go first? Or would you like me to go first? Who wants to go first?
I'm a Russ Hive guy. I think he's got to go forward.
It's close.
Ooh.
Steph better. Yo, listen, man. You know what's funny? We almost created in the pregame in the pre-show. We almost created a member of the Steph Hive.
Wait,
XJ almost joined the Steph Hive.
Oh, because our XJ is in the Steph Hive. He just doesn't know it yet.
So what happened was, I was explaining the Hives, and then he was like, and then when I got to Steph, it was like, yo, Steph, just like Steph better everybody. And I put the example that after Golden State won the title, Steph Hive started saying that he's better than Magic. And actually I was like, well, I don't know if it's really. I was like, don't do that.
Steph Hive advances for me because I know these conversations. Steph Hive. There are people putting him in the top 5 ever. I'm not there yet. Steph Hive advances for me.
At least that man won 4 championships.
That is also true.
Yes, but this is where the Russ Hive I've learned to just ignore. I can't ignore Steph. He's really good, and I give him his props. Saying someone is a top 10 player ever is not a bad thing. Ignoring history is.
Okay.
That's my take. That's my take.
The Steph Hive.
I mean, I'm a lifetime achievement award winner for the Russell Westbrook hate club. So you
gotta ride this out. Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
You guys can go.
You know what? At least the Steph Hive has something to point to.
All right.
But listen, GMAC, I'm with you because I say this all the time. Steph Curry is an amazing basketball player. He's one of the greatest. He's the greatest shooter we've ever seen. And when he leaves the NBA, it is going to be a sad day. But it is going to be glorious watching the Golden State bandwagon just dissipate and fall apart because they're all going to go. At least with the Russ Hive, they're 10 toes down no matter what. I feel like I'm going to take the Russ Hive, but it was really close. It was really
Russ Hive moves
really
on.
Close. Okay. All right. Next up, 3-6, Jordan Embiid. I mean, what are we talking about here?
The Embiid Hive has recently made a strong case for themselves, I will say. The Jordan Hive is a defense of everyone that is our parents' age that watched basketball when you could clothesline people, that defends first to 75 like they played in the 90s and early 2000s as like gritty basketball. So an entire generation of basketball watchers are in the Jordan Hive. So they move on from me.
Same here.
Yeah.
Like this isn't close. But go ahead.
As a 15-year-old kid in barbershops getting yelled at by men twice and 3 times my age, the Jordan Hive moves on.
Yes. Okay. And then apologies to Cam. Not to Cam, to Frank, but the LeBron Hive is moving on. I will say, similar to what you're saying about Steph, where like the Steph Hive has something to point to, the LeBron Hive has something to point to, and all I really hear from the LeBron Hive is like he's better than Michael Jordan, which if you're just going by some math and some longevity arguments,
here we go.
You can make the case.
Okay.
I don't think the peak will ever reach that, but you can, like all-time leading scorer, probably like a 20-year peak, something we've never seen. You know, you can point to them as like could move on. The Frank Hive remains one of the more fascinating couple of years in my life of having to be like, this your man's, you know. So a case could be made for the Frank Hive advancing here.
Yeah, a case could be made, but it's clear. All right, so
Mensa, where are you?
I'm a LeBron guy. I'm not LeBron Hive, but I'm a LeBron guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know people who would tell you that LeBron can dribble. I do know people who will tell you LeBron never had surgery for his hairline. I know people who like it doesn't matter what LeBron like. Listen, if there was a church of LeBron James, Yeah, they would. Yeah, I mean, Frank Ntilikina can't. He can't open up a church. He can't take tithes out here. LeBron James, yeah.
So what's our final four, Sean?
Our final four: number one Kobe versus number 5 Russ Hive, and number 2 LeBron Hive versus number 3 Jordan Hive. All right, Kobe versus Russ.
I kind of wish this had ended up being Kobe versus Steph, because that argument gets brought up a lot of who's greater all time. For me, I don't think it's close. It's Steph, but I get told by everyone that has worked hard in their life because of something he said that no, it's Kobe. The determination. And look, I gained such a great appreciation for it after his passing, because all of those people that I just muted and moved on from, I now were like, damn, their hero died. And I appreciate what that meant. Time heals. And now I'm able to remember what those people, how they swarm. And the Kobe Hive is advancing in the sense that it's like they're trying to force an argument that it's LeBron, Kobe, MJ, and like the impact he's had on the league, where every player swears by him. Like every long two that Jason Tatum takes that's bad is because his favorite player was Kobe Bryant growing up. Same for Devin Booker. Same for Trae Young. All of these inefficient shots that we all hate now are because Kobe Bryant's effect on the NBA. So I, again, appreciate his impact and his legacy. I always likened him to The Dark Knight, in that it's not the greatest movie ever. It has a very loyal fan base that tries to put it in the conversation, though. And it gets like brought up just because, like, oh, well, you got to bring up The Dark Knight just so people will shut up, you know? So there, Kobe Hive moves on.
Mensa?
Kobe Hive moves on.
Yes. And then we'll save the story for the final.
Kobe Hive moves on.
We'll save the Kobe story for the okay. So Kobe Hive moves on. Jordan LeBron.
It's perfect. This is perfect.
It's like
Mensa,
the selection committee knew what they were doing.
Mensa, you're a LeBron guy?
I'm a LeBron guy. Yeah. Okay. I just respect. So to me, basketball is a 5-on-5 sport. And I think what LeBron did with teammates, like, I'll never not see that 2009 LeBron James season he won 66 games with who, what, when, where, and why. Like, it didn't make sense for him to take that team as far as he took it. Of course, that was maybe the worst the Eastern Conference was in that era. Like, you can argue like that was like the 4 or 5 like year period where he was like with the Cavs was also like the worst we've ever seen in the Eastern Conference. I would hear that argument. But also, like, the reason why, like, I gotta go with the LeBron Hive over the Jordan Hive is because Michael Jordan's resume is his resume. Like, there's an entire people always make this argument. There's a Hall of Fame career worth of accolades separating LeBron from Michael Jordan. And there are people who, again, like, the facts, like, who is more unreasonable when it comes to discussing the facts? And I feel like the LeBron Hive has to, like, chip away, has to make error arguments as far as like, oh, well, if LeBron was playing against the 96 Sonics, they would have won. You know, like, and it's like, okay, but he didn't. He didn't play against the 96 Sonics. He played against Dwight Howard's Orlando Magic and lost. You know, like, well, no, he didn't lose to them. He lost to them.
Yes, he did.
He did. Oh, yeah, he did.
In 09 to the Magic and lost.
Orlando Magic.
Yes. Now, granted, averaged 38, 8, and 8 in that series. Yeah. So I'm with actually the LeBron Hive in the sense of, like, so he should have gotten more out of Wally Zerbiak and Anderson Varejao. Like, I actually do appreciate the argument.
Yeah, and I mean, they didn't want to trade for Amari Stoudemire because they were holding on to JJ Hickson. JJ who? You know, so it's really, this one is really hard for me, but I gotta go with LeBron Hive just because, like, you can't say that Jordan Hive is annoying, but they have the facts on their side. And I feel like you have to deviate from the facts, or like it's almost revisionist history to say that LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan.
Sean.
I actually don't think this is close. I was telling, as I said earlier, I was talking to XJ before we started recording and explaining him the one-liners for everyone. For the Jordan Hive, if you let them tell it, he's Paul Bunyan because Jordan never lost. Jordan never lost. Jordan is the player that whenever any superstar does something bad or has a mishap, that never would have happened to Jordan. Jordan fans, the Jordan Hive, made it cool to lose before the finals than actually losing in the finals. Because what did they throw in front of you?
Very fair.
6-0, 6-0, 6-0. Like, oh, so when Jordan was getting his ass kicked by the Pistons every single year, that doesn't matter. But look,
nothing before 91 matters.
Nothing before 91 matters. Only thing that matters is between 91 and 98. And what else they'll tell you? I'm like, yo, they'll tell you that if Jordan didn't retire, they would have won 8 straight championships, even though we literally have a documentary produced by Michael Jordan where he says at the end we were freaking spent. But they believe that he would have won 8 straight championships if he didn't retire. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Okay. He didn't play in the 94 season, but he played in the 95 season, and 2 young boys by the name of Shaq and Penny got them out the paint. And you know what they'll tell you? Oh, that's because he wasn't ready because he just came back from baseball. He shouldn't have been on the court then, because you know what would have happened if they won the championship? It would have been like, see, he literally walked off the baseball field onto the court and won the championship. Jordan Hive moves on. It's not close. And I am of that generation. I saw it all.
So I love that line in The Last Dance where his trainer is like, well, you've got a baseball body. Just completely takes out every baseball player ever. That's like, your body sucks because you can't play basketball. Like, we need to get you in better shape so that way you have a basketball body now. I think I lean Jordan Hive moving on, while this is very close actually for me, because like I do actually agree with the Jordan Hive's argument, and like to your point, Menta, it's revisionist history to say like what Jordan accomplished wasn't great compared to what LeBron accomplished. I also the amount of, again, it's a whole generation of people that are in that Jordan Hive. And it's not just defending Jordan. It's defending the 90s, and it's defending that type of basketball. It's defending the late 80s and, you know, the Bad Boys and the Davis brothers and Oakley and Mason and no layups and that whole era where you didn't need to be athletic. You just needed to be big, and you didn't have to win the game. You had to win the fight. So I will advance Jordan, admitting that I think it is close. I do think the LeBron Hive gives a valiant effort here.
I'll say this about the LeBron Hive. My problem with the LeBron Hive is that they are a bunch of they're excuse makers, and like, listen, I think LeBron is the greatest child actor story in American history. Like, the fact that he is where he is, from being hyped from the age of 14. At the same time, LeBron's hiccups look really bad, and they are ignored by the LeBron. It's just like there's always an excuse. There's always an excuse.
So his hiccups, it's the game 5 against Boston in 2010, and the end of the Dallas series, right? So game 4, 5, and 6.
JJ Barea is like,
So the whole missteps for LeBron is on 4 games.
Well,
like other than that, like was the best player in that series against the Spurs, but the Heat ran out of gas, and then like the Warriors were a juggernaut for like 4 seasons and built an unstoppable thing.
So there's 2 missteps you're excluding. One, there is the man who decided. Actually, one. They're actually together. When LeBron clearly has power and pulls strings to get things done, but when it goes wrong, it's everyone else's fault, and the LeBron Hive overlooks it. So it's like, for example, LeBron James thought it was a good idea to trade for Russell Westbrook. And then it gets there, it's like, oh, well, I didn't really have nothing to do with it. And LeBron's like, yeah, he didn't have nothing to do with it. He's not the GM. You know me, like Rob Pelinka made the trade.
That's on LeBron. You're right. Now that's on LeBron. You're right.
Come on, dude. Like it's just like throwing Kevin Love under the bus every chance he got, and just like, oh well, listen, he better fit in or fit out, And the passive aggressiveness, they're just like, come on, dude. Like, bro, like you are the kingmaker. Like, so that is whack. But I think it's Jordan. But I see where you're coming from.
So Jordan versus Kobe.
I think this is fitting. I think this is very, 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 very fitting.
This one ain't close either. Sorry.
Honestly, this is not close. So here's where this whole thing's
closer than you think.
It's not. Here's the problem. Here's the problem. And I'm just going to tell a story. In my early years of Twitter, I saw a Kobe's legacy debate taking place. I want to say legendary NBA Twitter staple Snotty Drippin was involved with this, where he was arguing that Kobe has some flaws to his legacy, and somebody was saying that Kobe's perfect, Kobe's the greatest, he's the GOAT, better than Michael, and challenged him to a fight in Temecula. Temecula, which is a city in California, just outside of Villa de los Caballos. Okay. It's in Southern California, right below San Bernardino and Anaheim. And the fight was issued out on Twitter, meet me in Temecula. And forever, it is a staple that if you get into an argument on Twitter, because what ended up happening is Snotty Drippin was like, go away. And then this dude arguing with him took a picture of a welcome to Temecula road sign with his middle finger up, calling out Snotty Drippin for being a bitch, and was like, see, like you ran from the smoke, Kobe's better. And it's like, so every time I get to an argument, it's like, yo, meet me in Temecula, because that's how hard the Kobe Hive goes.
Okay? And that dude, that drive to Temecula was 2 hours, and I'm pretty sure it was either Thanksgiving night or Thanksgiving Eve. Like, homeboy left his family.
This happened. So I'm looking at the map of Southern California now. It's like 2 hours south of Anaheim, 2 hours north of San Diego. It's enough inland that you're not just like riding the I-5. You actually have to go in. So yeah, this happened.
Oh,
Meet me in Temecula is a thing.
It was Christmas.
It was Christmas. That's what it was. This man left his family on Christmas to go argue about Kobe Bryant. And he like is a hero in the other way in the Kobe Hive. And look, the Kobe Hive wins because I've tapped out. I just don't argue with people who have Mamba or 24 or 8 or Kobe in their bio, in their Twitter name. I just like, all right, yep, fine. Top 3 ever. You got it. I tapped out, and you have the ability to get me to tap out. You win,
So I will say this. I think it's closer than people think, but it is Kobe. And listen, I'm saying this. I'm wearing a Mamba Sports Academy hoodie right now because I respect and love and respect the Mamba for real. But again, it's not about the person. It's about the people who blindly defend them. My issue with the Kobe Hive is this, where they argue, like, to me, I think it is clear that he is behind Jordan and LeBron. I think it's clear. I think, and the biggest problem I have with LeBron with the Kobe Hive is that the things that they argue down against the others, if Kobe had did that, they would throw it in your face every single day. Because if Kobe took the 2007 Lakers to the finals at age 22, that will be thrown in our face for all of eternity. So, but he didn't make the finals. He was 45-37 and blew a 3-1 lead to the Phoenix Suns in the same year that a 22-year-old LeBron James took that Cleveland Cavaliers team to the NBA Finals with Zydrunas Ilgauskas and Danielle Marshall and
Boobie Gibson, Eric Snow.
Yes. So for me, it is the Kobe Hive. Mensa, what say you? Because we have to wrap up.
I almost had to meet a couple people in Temecula, man. all I was doing was talking about the stats in the game and how, like, LeBron, inarguably to me, even in the moment, LeBron was inarguably better than Kobe Bryant. But people got so fired up. And, like, if the phrase "you don't know ball" originated with anybody, it was the Kobe Hive. So, like, they are, again, you just don't argue with them. You just know at this point. It's like, all right, like, where I'm from in New York, like, we'll say, like, never heard of them, keep banging, right? Like, we've heard of the Kobe Hive. We don't want no smoke with them. So, like, I don't want any problems with the Kobe Hive. Maybe this is just me being younger and being able to tune out old dudes in the barbershop, but Kobe Hive, Kobe Hive, Kobe Hive, and Kobe Hive, because my goodness.
Yeah, you're right. You don't know ball. Like, it's that originated from them, and it's just like you can't, like, you and unfortunately, like, us losing him just exacerbated it to a whole other level because listen, I was distraught the day he passed away, and I did days.
Oh, absolutely.
I cannot. There's days I said, I see like videos. I'm like, I cannot believe Kobe Bryant is no longer here. Like, I cannot believe that. But as I said in the beginning, and that's why we'll close, you are doing a disservice to the player when you amplify their accomplishments and completely ignore their warts. Because Kobe, Russ, Jordan, LeBron, Cam, RJ, Embiid, Jokic, Melo, Frank, they all have one thing in common. They all have one thing in common, Andrew.
What?
They're all human, and they all make mistakes, and they all have their flaws.
Nah, Melo to God.
And with that, thank you for joining us for this episode of Casual Friday. We hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you heard, please drop a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow me at SeanW_. You can follow Mensa at More Like Mensa. You can follow Andrew Claudio, GMAC, at Andrew J. Claudio _. And you can follow the one and only XJ at Xavier J Designs. We will be back next week with more podcasts from John and from Jeremy and if you're not a patron, please subscribe to Patreon. You could, for as little as $7 a month, you'll get an extra podcast with John and Andrew that is not NBA related, and you have access to all of our newsletters as well as our playbacks, where you can watch people like us three and XJ watch the Knicks not lose, because when we watch the Knicks, they don't lose unless it's in the Pacific time zone and it's 12:30 at night. So for these fine gentlemen, I'm Sean for W. Thank you for listening. Knicks Nation, let's ride.